Hi, I'm Sean Mabry. I'm a fantasy writer, and I have to start this video out with a few disclaimers. So the first one is that I am going to be talking about sexual assault in this video, so that's your warning. If you need to stop watching now and just to never finish this video for self-care reasons, I completely understand. Go ahead. The second disclaimer is that I am going to talk about the results of the election on Tuesday, and this video is primarily addressed to people who voted for Donald Trump. And the third disclaimer is that this is ultimately a personal channel. So even though I have many thoughts and opinions and feelings about the election, many of them political, obviously, I'm going to try to keep this personal and really focus on the parts of this that most affect me directly. So with all that said, here it goes. In the lead up to this election, there was an audio tape that was leaked that showed Donald Trump describing behaviors of his own that constitute sexual assault. It was pretty well covered in the media, but in case you haven't seen it already, I will make sure to link to it in the footnotes below this video. And also in the lead up, well, in the space between that video and the election, I heard a lot of people, predominantly people who were in favor of Trump, and presumably people who have since voted for him, coming out and saying things like, oh, this isn't a big deal, it's not that bad, this is locker room talk, this is just he's just saying bad things, he's just saying inappropriate things, why is this a big deal? And that is really the reason why I wanted to make this video, is to talk about why it's a big deal. And before I go any further, for you, my friends and family, who I suspect are watching this, who have voted for Trump, and I know that applies to some of you, I want to start by granting you this. I do believe, honestly, that you are acting from your highest instincts. In fact, I know, just because of how our democracy works, unfortunately, that often people have to set aside or look past elements of a candidate that truly they would find morally repugnant in isolation in order to stand up for something that they truly believe in, and I do believe that that is the case with you. I know, in fact, I know a lot of my other friends and family won't even like me saying that, but I believe that, and I think it's important to mention here. So, with all that in mind, I want you to understand that everything I'm about to say now comes from a place of love, and this is me speaking from my deepest personal convictions. So please hear me out. Now, to give some context for the favor I want to ask, as in the title of this video, I was sexually assaulted by another man while I was in college. And if I went into the details here, this would probably just be a 3 to 5 hour long video of me crying, so I'm not going to do that. But I will say that the circumstances of it were actually quite similar to what Trump describes in the audio clip. And more importantly, I want to really talk about the aftermath, because that event took 2 years out of my life. Gone, just completely. Which might be mysterious for some of you who were there during that time, because it looked like I was functioning well. It looked like everything was okay. I was keeping up with my classes, my grades didn't suffer at all. I kept up with all my various personal responsibilities. But on the inside, it was easily the darkest and scariest period of my entire life. It's the only time since middle school that I've seriously considered suicide, and in fact, every day had to talk myself down from committing suicide. I could feel almost nothing but a constant mix of fear and rage and despair and sorrow. And I say this now not because my experience is unique. In fact, I'm one of the lucky ones. I've talked to a lot of other people, and I've read the accounts of many other people who have survived sexual violence, and I'm one of the lucky ones. There are people who never come back from it. There are people who go ahead and do commit suicide, frankly. There are people who suffer consequences you cannot imagine unless you've lived through them. And I say this all now, again, just to give context and to create some sort of understanding. And I also want to point out that I actually did try to report this to the police, and that was a incredibly disappointing and telling experience, because the police officer on the other line listened to my description of the event. I described it in detail. And he told me that that shouldn't really count as a crime. He said he wasn't going to, he wasn't even going to take notes, because as he explained it to me, he said, well, you, Sean, I can't even remember if I gave him his name, but he was addressing me. He said, well, wouldn't you do the same thing if you were with a young woman you found attractive? Well, no, I absolutely wouldn't. I would never. I would never. And in that moment, I grasped a much larger argument that that officer was making. That argument being sexual assault doesn't matter. Or if it does matter, it's not that big a deal. And I want you to understand now that for people like me, for people who have survived sexual violence, that is the exact same refrain that we are hearing now, and everyone saying that this isn't a big deal, that it's not worth taking seriously, that that was just someone talking inappropriately. And I know for a lot of us, and myself included, seeing those votes come in on Tuesday was possibly the loudest version of that message we've ever heard. And I personally was scared out of my mind. And I fear so much for all the other people who are in a similar position and who have been in a similar position. And this, by the way, includes people of all genders. And I really want to make it clear that I know that isn't what you meant with those votes. And I know this isn't what you meant with those comments. If it was, you're wrong, frankly, you're just wrong. But please try to understand what we're going through right now. And here's the favor I'm asking, is A, to understand, and to, whenever these conversations come up, whenever some celebrity or politician says something inappropriate about sexual violence, please think of us. Try to picture the people who have lived through it and the absolute living hell that comes in the wake of sexual violence, and put that first. Put that first. And also, if it's too abstract, if it's too difficult to picture this giant theoretical crowd, picture me. You know me. Look at my face in your mind's eye. Capture this image right now in your head and think of me when sexual violence comes up. I've lived it. I know how bad it is. And I am saying to you now, as someone who loves you and someone who believes in your higher instincts, truly, remember this. Consider this your education. And on top of that, I know for many of you that you are not supporters of sexual violence. So I'm asking you to help me. Help me prove that. A, share this video with whoever you think needs to see it. Let it get around. Let it startle people, let it wake them up, as I hope this is doing for you. And on top of that, I'm going to link below to the Rape and Abuse and Incest National Network, which is one of the largest organizations for supporting victims and survivors of sexual violence and for combating sexual violence. So please, if you don't believe in sexual violence, if you are against it, like I know you are, please go to that website and help out in any way you can. Make a donation, look for ways to volunteer. There are volunteer opportunities everywhere. I've checked the map. I've applied. So That's the biggest thing I want to say right now. Like I said, I have so many thoughts, I have so many opinions, but this one hits home for me, and so I thought it would be important and necessary to make this video. And I hope you'll agree. Thank you for watching. I hope the next video won't be so heavy.